This is Pivot Perspectives with Chris O'Byrne, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on their road to success, and get exclusive access on how to implement their success into your life and business. Pivot Perspectives is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Chris O'Byrne.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash, and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Megan Sumrell, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm going to dive right in and ask, how did your experiences in tech, because I know you had a lot, shape your approach to coaching?
Well, I'm not sure I would say how it shaped my approach, but it was more the skills, knowledge, and certifications that I gained over 20 plus years in the tech space. And it was all around Lean Six Sigma, process improvement, project management, all of the core principles, teachings, etc. I took a very unique spin with those and applied all of these same principles, plus a lot of neuroscience research, to how to create a proprietary framework to control our calendars and manage our time, which is very similar to trying to, plan and manage a really chaotic tech project sometimes.
Absolutely. Could you tell me a little bit about the framework?
Yeah, so it's called the TOP framework. It stands for Time Management, Organization, and Productivity. And it was designed specifically for my own personal need. When I first was developing this, I had no intentions of doing anything with it other than fixing my own very chaotic life about 12 years ago. And friends and family started noticing I was very different, relaxed, happy, a lot more free time. So what are you doing? So a group of other women in tech asked if I'd kind of share with them what I was using to juggle my time and calendar. So that's kind of how it evolved into really breaking it down into a systemized, teachable, repeatable system. So at the heart of this framework, there are those 3 core components: the time management, organization, and productivity. And then with each one of those kind of core pillars, there are 3 additional components within each one that build up the entire framework. And so there are ultimately 4 levels of planning that I teach. There's weekly planning, monthly planning, quarterly planning, and annual planning. And each one of those serves a very specific purpose and benefit. And there are unique steps that are done with each one of those levels of planning as well.
How do you handle the person who really wants this, but their brain is just so big picture that it's really hard for them?
Yeah. And, a lot of people, women in particular, will use one of 2 reasons why they're like, there's no point in me planning. One is their life is so full of uncertainty. They're like, why waste my time planning anything? Because I'm going to wake up at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning and my kid's going to be sick and, my entire day is going to be derailed. So that's one of the biggest things I hear. And the other one is, I don't want to get that down in the weeds because I'm either A, too big picture, or B, they think it's going to ruin their creativity, right? They have this misbelief that having all of this, open space and I'm going to go with the flow, they think that that's actually going to give them more freedom, when it actually creates a lot more overwhelm and stress. So for most people that are really resistant to it, the first time they see me walk through this weekly planning process and they see what this output could look like for them on their calendar, they start to apply their own realities of life to it. And they start to go, oh, now I get it. You're not trying to tell me how to spend every minute of my day and that it has to be go, 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 go. It's we're structuring a plan for their week ultimately that allows them to protect the time they need for the things that are most important to them. But the good news is they get to decide what those are.
Those are. What are some of the bigger picture pieces that drive the time management aspect?
What do you mean by bigger picture pieces?
So, and again, I'm a big picture thinker, so I tend to go to that place first.
Okay.
And so how is it, I guess, how would it help me?
Right. So there are so many, and I've even been to these workshops where it's really focused big picture, right? People might call them goal setting workshops or, strategic visioning or whatever. And I love those because they get you really excited about things, right? But they typically fall flat in one key area. So normally they will include some kind of visioning, goal setting, right? Thinking where do you want to be 3-5 years from now? Hopefully they do a really good job at teaching you how to identify what are the most important kind of longer term things that might make sense for us to focus on. And then a lot of people even do a really good job of saying, okay, let's break this big idea down. Like even, maybe you want to write a book, maybe you want to launch a podcast, something like that. You're like, oh, I can see how this is going to totally change my life. They might even then do a great job of helping you break it down into kind of bite-sized chunks, right? Okay, well, first, I'm going to spend the first 2 months working on getting my outline together, gathering my stories, so on and so forth. But where they fall flat is they fail to introduce, let's look at the realities of your real life. And let's make sure that this plan that you're kind of building, what I call in a vacuum, is even realistic and sustainable for you based on your real life. And I see this time and time again where someone will come to me and be like, I laid out this whole plan. I was going to write a book, last year. And I got all my milestones. And then we dig into it and I'm like, I see a milestone here that you were going to hit at the start of August. Isn't it true that you kind of go into full-time mom mode for about 2.5 months over the summer? Yeah. Like, did you incorporate that into your plan? Or did you just think that you were going to continue to write for 15 hours a week, every single week from now to the end point? Right. And they tend to kind of go, yeah, all right. And so for people that love to be big picture and have big ideas, I do rank as a visionary. I'm a very strategic, big picture thinker. I love that. I have new ideas every single day. But the reason that they actually follow through to fruition is because we turn that goal into an actual plan that incorporates all the realities of our life. Instead of having your plan for your goal over here in this one notebook, and then your calendar's over here with all of your appointments and commitments, and the two don't match up often.
Yep, I can totally relate to that.
And most people do. And it's why I get so frustrated when I see some of the, high performing planners, the physical planners out there. I mean, like the full focus plan or whatever. Everyone's like, this is going to help you achieve your goals. Even they don't integrate it. They have a whole section in the planner for your goal setting. And then it immediately shifts to, okay, make your task list for tomorrow. Right. And they're not connecting the two together.
Yeah, I have the full focus planner and it's currently sitting over there on my shelf
They
looking
usually
lonely.
do.
It works really well for like the first month, but then it
Yeah.
was, yeah, you're right. So let's dig in just a little bit. Task management. Let's say, because I just have this long list of things that I get done and I have to put them in all these different categories. And I've tried using, like Todoist and other tools that help me with that. And then I forget to even look at it most of the time.
Yeah.
What do I do then?
Yeah, operating from a task list. And unfortunately, this is what many of us were taught to do. I was taught to do this for years as well. Like, wake up, do your brain dump, right? Get your task list for the day. Then someone decided one day to say, identify your top 3 priorities. So everyone's stuck to that. There's no like brain science behind that. And we're supposed to label those and then just focus on those. And then when those are done, then we can work on everything else, which is terrible advice in today's day and age. And I think that this worked and served us well 25-ish years ago, when technology is not what it is today. But there was an interesting research article done in, I think it was 2019, that was showing the sheer volume of data that we are consuming. So if this was in 2019, it's worse now. And at that point, they were showing the gigabytes of data we're consuming is enough to fill up an average computer in 1 week. And that's what's coming at us all day long. So this is why our task lists are out of control, right? It's coming, it's in, we keep adding. So 3 things are really wearing us down when we're staying in this task list way of operating. Because most people have their calendar with their appointments and then the task list somewhere else or in 7 other places, perhaps, some on paper, some in Todoist or whatever. So here's what's going on with that and why it's causing so many problems. First, I've never met anyone that actually takes the time to write down next to each task, how long is this going to take? I mean, we're not trained to do that, right? We're go, go, go. So chances are you've got a list with 55 hours of work on it that you're trying to tell your brain, this is what we're doing today. So they're always completely unrealistic in terms of attainability and the time frame we're thinking we're going to get this stuff done, because we're not taking the time to actually say, how long is this? And do I actually have that? The second one is really interesting. And it kind of ties into how our brain works. So the more information you give to your brain to look at, to say, hey, let's pick something out, the harder it has to work. So if I were to give you like, hey, here's an apple and an orange, what do you want? It's gonna be very easy. You'll be like, oh yeah, this, I'll take this one. But if I put a basket of fruit in front of you with like 22 different fruits and say, which one do you want? All of a sudden your brain's like, whoa, like this is a lot of information for me to choose from. Well, when you have a task list with, 52 things on it, and you have your brain look at it and say, what should we work on right now? Your brain instantly goes into the same chemical reaction as the kind of fight, flight, or freeze mode. Like if a bear walks into your office, it actually triggers the same thing because it's like, this is really stressful. So then your brain does what it's designed to do, which is make you feel good. So like if it was a bear, it'd be like, get the hell out of here, right? We're moving. Well, in this, where we're looking at all of these things to choose from, your brain is saying, I need to check something off as fast as I can. That's how I'm going to feel better and get my dopamine hit, because we all get them with that check mark, right? It feels great. So what your brain is ultimately going to do is it's going to say, how can I get the fastest check mark? And 9 times out of 10, you are picking the low-hanging fruit that really isn't anything that's moving the needle, right? So it tends to keep us typically focused on the least valuable stuff because our brain is trying to get out of this anxiousness of this really long list. And then the third really interesting thing that happens as well, I'm sure we're all familiar with the concept of decision fatigue. End of a long day and your spouse comes in and it's like, where do you want to go for dinner? You're like, for the love of God, somebody else just decide, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Please just tell me where we're going. Well, we're doing that to our brain all day long if we're operating from a task list. Because every time you look at it to decide what to do next, you're making a micro decision. And when you wake up every morning, your brain only has a limited capacity of decision making, which was also the same thing that people call willpower. And so every time you're looking, you're depleting from that, which is why you hit decision fatigue so quick. And this is why people even thinking about trying to eat healthy or whatever. This is why people after dinner make really bad decisions, right? Their decision fatigue has hit its max and our ability to make good decisions really goes away. So if we continue to operate from just looking at a task list all day long, we're making our brain work so much harder. We're oftentimes working on the least important stuff, and it keeps us kind of elevated and a little mild anxiety all day long, right? Because this list is just sitting there staring at us. So this is why I always tell everybody a task list is not a plan. So what we have to learn how to do is say, okay, what are all the things competing for our time? And this is what I teach weekly. This is why I do not believe in daily planning. We look at everything that we know of competing for our time for the week, both personal and work. And then I start them off with a 5-step planning system, and then we elevate to a 10-step. It only takes 15 minutes a week. This is not like a 5-hour endeavor here. And we actually learn how to take those things that are competing for our time and build them into a weekly plan that has a lot of specificity around here's what you're doing and when you're doing it. So now, instead of looking at all these things to choose from all day long, day after day, we get to just look at our plan, and it's like following a map of, okay, plug in your end destination. My end destination is Sunday when it's Monday morning. And now I'm just looking at my plan, and it is guiding me on here's what we're doing now. Here's what we're doing next. And so my brain gets to be at full capacity because I'm showing it, we got this, like we got a plan, right? So if it's Monday and I start to get stressed about this thing I know I have later this week, I can go look at my plan and show my brain, it's okay, we're not working on it right now. See, we've got all Wednesday morning set aside for that. And my brain goes, okay, great, thanks, Megan. Now we can focus back on what we're supposed to be doing in this moment. It's a real game changer for stress and overwhelm.
Yeah. Because I mean, everything you're saying, I completely relate to. And so then how would I deal? Well, no, first question is, so are you recommending that the tasks are put on the calendar?
Absolutely. And there's two types of tasks. So not all of them go to a specific date and time. Like I had two last week. I had two friends. It was their birthday. I'm not going to go to my calendar and say, okay, from 9 a.m. to 9:05, I'm going to call them. Like that's a little ridiculous. So I do have space at the bottom of each day with my planner for those just couple minute tasks that I'm like, yeah, I'll fit it in at some point throughout the day. And it's not critical that it happened that day. Like if it happens tomorrow, totally fine. But any of the things that are going to require, at least 15 minutes or more of my time, I'm either grouping them together. Like I may take 4 15-minute things and group them together and say, okay, from 9 to 10, I'm getting these 4 things done. Or if it's something longer, then I'm, a lot of times writing, I need a good 60-minute block if I'm doing a writing task. So then I create the appointment with myself of this is the time that you're going to do that. And that also allows me to align that type of work to the times of day when I know I do that type of work the best as well.
So then how do you accommodate the unexpected?
Unplanned, yeah. So this is what I call planning for uncertainty. Everybody's got it, right? I've never in my life planned out a week and then nothing had to change or come in. So I actually teach a technique that everybody can go through to figure out what their level of uncertainty is, because it's different for everybody, right? And it even changes in my own life through different seasons and stages and all of that. So I know right now that with work-related tasks, I will typically have about 4 hours of things that are going to come up over the course of a Monday, Friday that I don't know about at the start of the week, but I know are coming and that will need to be handled during the week. And I know this because I've tracked it. So this is how I know this number. So then when I sit down to plan my week, I actually reserve on my calendar 4 hours of time that is blocked. I'm not planning to do anything specific. Nobody can book appointments with me. I'm protecting it. Kind of think of it like having an emergency financial fund, right? Every month, maybe you're depositing money into there because you don't know what you're going to need, but history shows the car is breaking down, the water heater, the air conditioner, whatever.
Yeah.
So I load my week with my emergency fund. Now, maybe I have, protected Tuesday morning and there's nothing assigned there. And maybe Tuesday morning rolls around and nothing has happened yet that I didn't know about. Well, now I look at my plan for the week and say, okay, is there anything I was scheduled to do later in the week that I can just pull forward and do now? and essentially swap those, chunks of time around.
Okay.
So maybe if I was planning on doing something Thursday morning, I can be like, well, I can just do that now and then go protect that Thursday morning instead. Now, I do have magical weeks where sometimes that 4 hours doesn't need to be consumed. And so maybe I'm rolling into Friday and now I have this gift of time I was not expecting. Well, I know exactly where to go look, because I teach people how to do this, that says, if you have time you are not planning on, let's make sure you know exactly where to go look so that you're spending it wisely. Because then what happens is all of a sudden you have a free hour of time. It's like, well, what should I do? How should I spend it? We spend the first 30 minutes frantically trying to figure out how to spend the time instead of just actually being able to use it really, really well. And so when we learn what our level of uncertainty is and then how to kind of protect our calendar around that, it means I'm not staying up late or getting up early or rolling stuff into the weekend because my time got hijacked all week long. I just expect it to come, and it always does.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus? What I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
Got it. One more question around that. Now, I have this again. It's my slush fund. So at the end of the day, my daughter goes. So I have a 7-year-old daughter. She's my youngest, and 7 o'clock or so, she's off to bed, and that's my time to get caught up on all the things that I didn't get done during the day. Is that a dumb idea?
I'm not going to say no, because everybody's wired differently, right? Some people get a second wind and love working at night, right? Now, I don't. My entire life, I've never been a night owl. Even in college, I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're getting ready to go out at 9:30. Like, I just want to go to bed at 9:30. So for someone like me, that would be a terrible idea, because I don't work well at night. Like, I just never, I really struggle to do that. So I'm never going to tell someone, no, you shouldn't work at night. But if I hear, hey, every day I set a plan of what needs to get done and it never gets done during the time I thought it would, so I'm having to use time I wasn't wanting to work to get caught up, that tells me we need to build more uncertainty into your actual daily life. But if it is a assigned work hour, you're like, no, I don't mind working for an hour and a half every night. I plan to do that. And you're that's part of your time budget and that works for you, then great. It would be a disaster for me.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, looking back, when did you first realize that you had to become a coach and leave the tech world, the corporate world behind?
Yeah. Well, once I had built this framework I was using for myself and 5 women, I did a little presentation at a women in tech conference years ago, and they talked to me afterward and they were just asking, like, how do you juggle all this? So I was like, oh, it's kind of in how I plan to manage my time. So they asked me if I would teach them what I was doing. And I had to, I was like, let me think about that. So I went home and really thought, can I unpack this? Can I make this a teachable structure? I've always enjoyed teaching. And so I took them on with no guarantee. I was like, here's my commitment to you. I'll share this with you guys, but give me honest feedback, right? I'm not going to charge you for it. I'm not a coach. I'm not anything. I'm just happy to share what I'm doing. And after working with these 5 women for 3 months, they're like, you've changed our life. I made different. Like, I really thought I was on the path to burnout, divorce, all of that. And you've given me a new lease on life. And in that moment, like, the joy I got in working with those women and seeing their change, right? Because I had it, but I didn't know if they would, was when I knew this is what I want to do with my life. Like, this is far more meaningful than continuing on with a career that, I loved. It challenged me. We did really cool stuff. And so I, kind of debated how I wanted to handle this. So I kind of started off originally just working one-on-one with people. And then it got to the point where I'm like, this is not scalable. It's not sustainable. I need to be able to make a greater impact, and one-on-one work doesn't do it. And so that's when I knew I really wanted to turn this into a digital course that is available all the time, that people can purchase and go through at their own pace, instead of it being reliant on time with me. So we set that up in 2019. And in 2 years prior to that was when I sat down with my husband and just said, this is what I want to do. And he's super supportive. He's like, well, I bet on you. So I kind of left corporate. And at that time I left my corporate job. I was still a co-founder in a small software company at the time. But fully left that behind in 2020 when this program just started taking off. And so for me now, this has been kind of my full-time calling for the last 4 years. And I love it.
So what was the biggest mindset shift you had to go through to become successful in what you're doing now?
It brings me back to a conversation I had with my niece. She was maybe 18 at the time. And she was over for a sleepover on a weekend when she was in town. And it was early on when I was just kind of dipping my toes in this water. And when you put yourself out there, you're going to get some negative stuff, right? Especially because I market this as a time management system specifically for women, which leads to some interesting remarks from people here and there. And you really got to have some thick skin. And so I was sharing a comment that had been made on something I had posted out there that hit hard. It was rough. And I showed it to her as we were sitting on the couch, and she laughed, which was not, I was like, why are you laughing? And she called me May May, and she looked at me and she just goes, May May, haters gonna hate. You got to let that go. And
Yes.
that just like stuck with me. And I think that was the biggest shift I had to move away from. I was born a diehard people pleaser. And so to step away from this, I need to make sure that everything I'm doing makes everybody happy and works for everybody and doesn't ruffle any feathers. I had to get away from that to say, I have to be true to the thing that I know works and teach it in a way that I know works, and allow all of that other junk to filter out. Because if I don't, then it's going to get me down. And so one of the smartest hires I made early on was someone to come in and manage my social media, so I don't have to see any of it. And it really allows me to protect my energy and keeps my mind set where it needs to be. But if you are the face of a business for a while, it can really get you down. So I think that was my biggest challenge early on, was realizing it's okay that I'm not for everyone.
Yeah. So who has been a significant mentor or influence in your life, and what's the most valuable lesson you learned from them?
Oh, God. So many. Like, it's so hard because I've learned really specific things from very specific people. Is it okay if I mention more than one?
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
So, I mean, honestly, I would say early on, just my parents in particular. My dad was actually in the Marine Corps for 30 years and had 3 daughters. So, but the way they raised us was work hard enough, you can be anything. And I don't think I even would have ventured into this without having that. Like, when my sister we were really, really young, we'd been on a around the world flight coming back from being stationed overseas. And as we were getting off the plane, my sister looked at my dad like age 6 and says, I want to be a stewardess. Like, she was so enamored with them. Oh, yeah. And his response to her was, well, why don't you just be the pilot instead? And so, I grew up in that environment, which I think was a big step up for me to feel the confidence to go, well, yeah, I can leave this 20 plus year career behind and launch on out there. I would say I was in a mastermind early on that was being run by a woman named Stacy Tushel. She had a different business then than she has now. And one of the things that she really hammered into me early on was to read the book, The One Thing, to help me really narrow my focus, especially new in business, right? You're seeing what everybody's doing. So it's like squirrel, 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 and I can do this and I'll build this funnel and I'll have this and then I'll have that course and then I'll do this. And she just kept saying, top program, stay in your lane, like stay in your lane. And I occasionally dipped out and regretted it every time. And so I think that's whenever, someone new in business is like, what's your biggest thing? I'm like, find your one thing and go all in on that for at least a year before you even start thinking about branching out. And most recently, I would say working with Jason Miller, I had a private VIP day with him. And it really opened my eyes to the power of compounded growth in a way that has allowed me to stretch my beliefs on what's even possible for this business. I thought, well, hey, we'll get, grow it to be a 2 million run rate. Like, that's great. And he's like, well, because in my mind, I had this belief that to grow beyond a 2 million annual run rate would mean I'm back to working a corporate lifestyle. Right. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
4.5 hours a day. I take my summers off. I'm not changing that. And I had this belief that put a cap on the possibilities of the business. And so for him to open my eyes to show me, no, we could absolutely build this to a $10 million annual business without me working any more than I already am, has been a real game changer for kind of what's going on between my ears as of late.
So what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your work?
I honestly, so the company name is called the Pink Bee. So I haven't decided which verb I want to use it, but just as people will talk about, I Marie Kondo'd my closet, right? And people say that we all know exactly what we're talking about. I want this movement to get so big that people will be like, yeah, I totally Megan Sumrell my calendar, right? Like, or someone will say, oh, are you using the top system? Are you using the top framework? Yeah. And it just becomes a household name and people know this is your way out of overwhelm. So that would be pretty cool.
Speaking of legacy, are you planning on writing a book soon?
I am. So it is in motion. Yes. And this is a very daunting task for me in particular. I was a math major. I don't necessarily enjoy the process of writing. It's a lot of hard work for me, but I simply cannot let another year go by and have people saying, when are you going to write the book? I think at the latest count, it's still like 99% of books written about time management and productivity are written by men. And so It's time. I will call it a labor of love. Let's put it that way. It's a lot of labor. I am, now that I'm fully committed, I am glad I'm doing it.
We just did a book by a man, but it's called Time Management, A Complete Waste of Time.
And I disagree with that. That means he doesn't know how to manage it well. But I hope you're interested in doing it for sure. The recent book I've read that I thought was actually fantastic was Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. That's a great read. But there's one chapter in there called about weekly planning. And I was like, there it is. There's the problem again. So I was like, okay, I need to get that record straight.
Got it. So what parting words of wisdom would you like to leave us with?
I would say if you are in a stage of life where you are constantly finding yourself going, okay, if I can just get through this week, next week's better, right? Or, if I just get through this month, next month, things are really going to slow down. And you find yourself saying that week after week and month after month. And maybe you've even got to that point where you're like, okay, well, this is just a stage of life. If I can get through the next 4 years and then my kids graduate, then I will have the time, right? I'm here to tell you the next stage is just there waiting. And so don't continue to let more time go by assuming it will get easier. There are resources and tools to fix it today. You deserve to be able to enjoy your life now and have fun now and do hobbies and things for yourself now while still being successful in whatever you desire to be successful in.
Where would you like people to go to learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm most active out on Instagram. Very easy to come find me there at Megan Sumrell. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the TOP framework and how that all works, you can just go to thepinkbee.com. And I've got a whole page there kind of explaining what the program is. You can kind of get a sneak peek into the framework as well and learn a little bit more about it there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thanks for listening to Pivot Perspectives with your host, Chris O'Byrne. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advice on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God. It's beautiful.